In 2023, it is not uncommon to see people posting on LinkedIn about applying to hundreds of jobs and not landing a position. But only about 10% of people actually land a job by applying online. What's another common way that we get into a job interview or get into the process? That's either getting referred or networking in. And this typically shows up a lot of times in the beginning as an informal interview or what's sometimes referred to as an informational interview. And so what I want to talk about in this video today is all the items we need to consider when conducting one of these informal interviews. And because it's 2023, I absolutely want you to be thinking about how you're going to bring AI into the conversation. Item one is your online presence. If you are going to try and engage in these informal conversations, we just got to make sure our online presence is super buttoned up. And of course, most of this is going to occur through LinkedIn, but I want you to be thinking about your other profiles from Instagram to Facebook to TikTok. Are these all appropriate? And there's no inappropriate content. But the reality is that your person who's going to interview you is much more likely to look you up on LinkedIn. Make sure that your profile is optimized. I'm going to throw a card up there so you can look at what a good profile looks like in 2023 and just be ready to talk through any of those items on your profile, whether that's the about section, experience section, etc. Item two is a fun one. Who is the driver? So we got to talk about this item. Who set up this informal interview? Who is pushing this conversation? Meaning, if you're the driver, you should be pushing the agenda. And ideally, this is done before your phone call or video chat. If you're the driver, you should make sure that in preparing for this conversation, you are either emailing your interviewer, sending them a text message, sending them a LinkedIn message with the agenda. That's a really great starting point. Then we come in with gratitude, and then we reiterate that schedule when we're driving the conversation. But you also want to show massive flexibility and say, hey, I'm happy to chat about whatever you want to chat about today. This will show good flexibility and adaptability. Now, if they're the driver, you're actually going to start in the same way with massive gratitude, but let them run the show. In either case, be prepared to lead and guide, because even if they're the driver, they might come into the conversation and say, hey, what do you want to chat about today? Item three is research. Obviously, this is going to be one of the most obvious and critical items. So let's dive into the most important items when it comes to research. Conduct research on the person you're going to speak with, especially their LinkedIn profile. We may or may not use that information during our conversation, but this is a great starting point. Then we just need to dig into the company's culture, mission, and values. This is very common for a normal interview as well. We definitely want to learn about their clients, their products, their services. You can do all that on the website, go into their social media. You also want to think about how this applies to the direct role that you could be applying for, or like or similar roles if they don't have an open position. And this is part of the start of your AI journey. How could AI disrupt plus add value in these areas? And then directly correlated is researching, well, how does the competition look and how are they utilizing AI to add value for their organization? The other piece of AI is just kind of what's trending in the space. I just don't want you to forget this component because it is an interesting area of discussion for many people. So be willing to bring that piece in. Then one of the missing pieces that I often find with research is not looking up any keynotes. So go to YouTube, again, go to their social media outlets from the website, the ones that they've highlighted on the website, and kind of try to determine, are they talking about AI? What are they talking about from a trending patterns perspective? Those are some critical items you'll want to be thinking about. Then the last piece is obviously, if you are trying to get into a chat and talk about a job description that's active, or they have current job descriptions that are pretty close, throw those into ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT to say, hey, what are the common themes? What are the most critical items from this job description? Because you're just going to want to identify those concepts and build that into your prep plan. The other things you may want to consider, you might want to look at, just double down on their social media pages, look at more of their financial health. You may want to be looking at current and former employees. You can even go onto their company's page on LinkedIn and look at their leadership team. And you absolutely want to be just looking at overall company reviews, testimonials as well. Item 4, prep and practice. Of course, this is also obvious, but let's double down on a couple of critical items to start in an informal interview. Nothing will hurt you more than not having great answers to tell me about yourself and why this company. In both answers, use the rule of 3. Specifically for tell me about yourself, identify 3 core skills and strengths that are a strong fit for the organization and role. And you'd simply say to Sue, hey Sue, here are 3 areas that I see really strong alignment in, A, B, and C. Now I'm happy to back up any of these concepts with examples or just go in more depth with a little bit more context on these items. And I'm also happy to walk you through my career. Not everybody loves this approach. Whatever path you take with the tell me about yourself question, 1 minute or less, or you will absolutely kill the conversation. It will not be a good first impression. Now, on the why the company question, I also like the rule of 3, really focus in on something personal, something company specific, and something role specific. Also keep this to a minute or less, but these are absolute answers that you need to practice time and time again. Be ready for other common questions, strengths, weaknesses, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'll throw the common questions playlist up above for you. Something else unique in these interviews that I want you to be prepared for is a little bit of that longer term planning and the short term planning. Be ready to discuss your short and long term goals. This definitely could come up in the conversation. Then let's just cover all the basics. Have great examples or example-based answers for your best achievements and experiences. Definitely focus in on practicing hypothetical questions and definitely practice with another human being. If this seems like too much, you may want to ask yourself if you're ready to be in the informal interview stage, because being prepared is so important. One more item, your closing statement. How are you planning and preparing to close it? We always start with gratitude, and then you want to be talking a little bit about best next steps and anything else you want to add. Make it very, very concise and succinct at the end. Item 5 is mindset. I talk a lot about mindset, but a few things we want to cover before going into this conversation. A listening mindset is key. So just kind of take a step back. Now, of course, you can push the agenda, but the more listening you do, likely the better outcome. Second is just a curiosity, an intellectual curiosity, just an overall curiosity. That kind of mindset typically plays well in these conversations. And of course, a positive mindset. Everything throughout your conversation should be backed with positivity. It will create better outcomes. Item 6 is logistics and first impressions. Now, starting with logistics, if it's only a phone call, just have your notes and info ready. Be in a room that's quiet with good cell service, and then I recommend using headphones or earbuds just to be hands-free. It's a little bit more comfortable. Now, if it's a video chat, be in a room with good Wi-Fi that's also quiet. You definitely want a clean setup. Your background should be very clean. You should have good lighting, be dressed and groomed appropriately. And if you're physically capable, many people know I stand for all my videos. I'm standing right now. It creates better overall energy and enthusiasm to stand. So if you can, it's really important. Now, the first impressions piece. I'm going to pin a card up there. I did a recent video on this, but most people make decisions on you within seconds. So the best way to create a great first impression is to start off with massive amounts of gratitude. And of course, if it's video, big smile, big energy. And then I'll, again, attach that video as a card so you can learn a little bit more about good first impressions. Lastly, item 7 is questions. Don't make sure to forget to ask questions in general, but make sure the questions are not you focused, that they're focused in on them. This is one of the most common mistakes I see candidates make. Ask questions about them. What do you love about the company? What do you love about your role? What do you love about working with your team? And then you can bring in some other questions with a really positive tone. And maybe that includes questions about how they're implementing AI, but just no negative or really challenging questions. In an informal conversation especially, we want to keep the tone gracious and kind, positive and light. I really hope this video helps. Good luck.